Okay, this question is from Jody Bakes. The question is, what are some good conditioning drills, plays for coaching grade 9 and 10 boys? Grade 9 and 10 boys. You gotta be aware of, right? You gotta be aware of if they have fundamental skills. If they have fundamental skills, then the path that you could try is, this is a Doug Nevins practice routine, which goes every practice. I'm assuming you'll practice this in games. Every practice you're doing this sequence of training. It goes warm up, possession, finishing on goal, crossing and finishing, playing to big goals in a short and narrow field, three teams. Third team sits on the outside as bumper. It's king of the hill style. Whoever loses becomes bumpers with neutral players on the outside with one touch, so that they're involved in the play, right, and not just tuned out on the sideline waiting for the next game. That's why you want two teams when you're finishing with playing, because if you only have two teams, then there's no risk reward for losing a game, right? It cultivates a more competitive environment in a fun way, right? Because that's the challenge at practice, to develop great skills, encourage players to develop a zenful practice habit, right? To always be, working towards getting better. And 9 and 10 boys. Yeah, so that's right. If they have fundamental skills, those are the things that you're doing every practice. Possession, finishing on goal, crossing and finishing, and playing to big goals. If they don't have technical skills, so if their passing, dribbling, and shooting and juggling are so poor, like if there's not one player on the team who can like effectively pass, juggle, dribble and shoot, then you could take the Tom Turnbull practice approach, which is warm up. It's warm up, ball skills mastery, dribbling sequences, barrel game, juggling into different vessels or baskets or hampers or garbage cans, whatever vessel that you can come up with. I used to have my 9 and they were 7. They're a little younger, so the 6th and 7th grade team, and 8th grade, you put one barrel in the center of a field and you line everyone up on the outside, and they have them juggle with a bounce, without a bounce, whatever's the ideal challenge level for them, and try to juggle with their right foot into the barrel, then left foot, both feet alternating, then right thigh, left thigh, both thighs alternating, finishing with anything you want, any body part. And what this is going to do, this is effective because if a player can take the ball out of the air, this improves their aerial juggling abilities, which is easily transferable on the field to like get to where your target, usually the goal, and just score. Okay, barrel game. So it was warm up. Okay, dribbling. How can you learn dribbling? Well, let's show you the sequences. So for ball mastery, I think the best options are Cover Coaching, right? COERVER. You could download that as an app or on Android. It's Fanta System Mickey on Instagram. This toddler, his dribbling sequences are super simple, but they're super smooth. And right, he demonstrates that even as a young player, you could have great foot skills. The third thing, if you like mixing technology and soccer training, Dribble Up Ball, right, has gamified ball mastery, which, at first I was skeptical, but after I thought more about it, if it's a fun game, even if you're looking at a screen, but it builds a fun exercise habit, I think that's something I'd be supportive of, even though personally I'm trying to cut down on screen time. So that's another option for learning, right? That first segment, dribbling skills. The second part, dribbling sequences. Right, so this is Tom Turnbull's. Tom Turnbull's went outside, outside, inside, outside, inside, and then you switch your feet and do the same thing over. You want to repeat this over and over and over, breathing nice and easy, right? So you're saying it out loud while you're doing it. Outside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside, outside, inside, outside, inside. And you want to repeat this because it turns into muscle memory. This is because it's easy to memorize, which means it's easy to execute. So the more, if you're the coach, if you master this, right, then you can demonstrate it to your players. So you got to master it first, because most players have a tendency to try and go way too fast. So you got to slow them down. Outside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside, outside, inside, outside, inside. Okay, so that's dribbling sequences, right? So it goes ball mastery, dribbling sequences, then we got barrel game. So if you have, right, like I said before, barrel game, you put a bucket or a barrel or garbage can in the center of your field, you line everyone up on the outside, and you have them try and juggle with their feet into the barrel using right foot only, then left foot only, with or without a bounce, alternating feet, right? Right foot bounce, left foot bounce, right foot bounce, left foot bounce, and then you do right thigh, left thigh, both thighs alternating, and then you do any body part you want to finish off. That's barrel game. And the last thing you're finishing on, this is the finisher, right? This is if their technical skills are very poor, you play the 1v1 game. So you need tall cones, the ones that you can knock over with a soccer ball, and they're splitting up and they're trying to knock each other's cone over. And you play best of three. Then you after 5 minutes you switch partners, and you could keep a score of this if you want, but you don't have to, right? It's just it's that's just your decision. Well, it's good to track it, because then you could start to match up, better training partners if you want to be surgical, because training partners are good. So if you're seeing Bobby's beating everyone, you got to play him against your best player, so you could, elevate each other's competition. So you want, ideally training partners who are the best, little people who are in front of you and behind you in skills level, ideally. And that's the sequence. If you have, right, those 4 things: warm up, ball mastery, dribbling sequences, barrel game, and then finishing with 1v1 with small balls to small cones, a few yards apart. That would be one practice session. You can combine these if you have enough time, right? If I had 2 hours every day, that's probably what it would look like, to be honest. But you gotta know how much energy you're getting. Like if you're ending practice and they have lots of juice in the tank, then it's almost like you got to turn your practices into skills and drills academies, which is exactly what you got from those past 10 to 15 minutes. So for those reasons, okay, now let's talk about these tools. These are tools that I think you as a coach should master, because once you master them, then you can develop. It's an easier to teach without speaking, right? Because then once you demonstrate some of these cool soccer tools to your team, then you don't have to say a word, and they're going to start to pick it up and they're going to start to do it. I think one of the best coaching tools that you can invest in, right? All this stuff probably costs less than, this is currently $29. This costs like, cheaper models versions can cost $10. That's $29, $30, $10, $10. That's $50 total, and you could completely change the training trajectory of like everyone on your team. This is a world-class fundamentals, movement and ball. Like, this is going to change the life of your team in an effortless way if you can master these things. Okay, so the kick trainer is, right, you're teaching striking abilities and timing and rhythm, but you're also just almost, I think a principle that's not as easily seen is awareness. It's almost like you're developing that breathing and that deep relaxation, because you're going to transfer that training onto the field more effortlessly if you can be in a state of nice deep relaxation when you're getting touches, right? So lots of touches with different surfaces. Clubs like AC Milan, Sevilla, Ajax, right? Like a lot of pro teams all over the world encourage their kids use kick trainers, just a ball and a rope, but you could get immediate feedback from how you're striking the ball and how the ball's leaving your foot, and it's effortless. Because if you're a junior and you don't have a good concept of like juggling, or you haven't seen it be displayed or play with kids who can do it, then it's going to be hard for you to learn that. So this makes it so they don't have to wait for a training partner, or they don't need a wall, because yes, a wall would be ideal, probably a training partner even more ideal, but if you don't have those two things, then using a kick trainer is a great option, just to increase the volume and the mistakes made and the learning created through a very cheap tool. The next thing actually is something, I've been playing soccer for 27 years, and just in the past 6 months, the fact that this has changed my soccer development so rapidly is almost like, to me, it just excites me, because this thing will change your life. It's just a simple rope, but if you search David Weck, alternating underhand sneak, if you as a coach could master this, you're going to change the trajectory of all the kids on your team's lives, because you're going to give them this strength in motion. It's effortless movement training, and it costs, you got to buy one for yourself so you can learn and demonstrate for the team. But old Andrew would say, you got to make them all for the team, but some coaches don't have those resources, so it's a good tool if you don't have to connect with all of them, but just maybe one or two who could appreciate some strength training through movement. The last, it's good to, if you're a coach of a team who's right there, grade 9 and grade 10, if you include, just invested $10 in a size 1 ball, then it's gonna increase the sensitivity of their touch, because if they're messing around, right, if you start playing skills games or you're doing skills training with a small ball, it's gonna help them better manipulate a size 5 on the field. So bringing a small training ball is another good tool to help your teams raise the training level of your team in an effortless way, right? Like I said, from Walmart, a small ball, a ball and a rope, some size 1, and some duct tape and some string or some rope, and then this is an RMT, a David Weck RMT rope, and he says you got to learn the alternating underhand sneak. So I would say these tools are passive tools that in an ideal world your team would have complete access to these tools, but also use them, right? So $50 per player on your team. Who's paying that cost? I don't know. But again, they probably have diamonds in their house and in their immediate surroundings. Like, they probably have some tennis balls. Like, your current soccer players probably have tennis balls lying around the house that they're not utilizing into their daily training, right? But how do you communicate that to your, like, you could tell them, but if they don't see you spending a lot of time juggling tennis balls, the chances that you're going to tell them and they're actually going to listen, and someone develops a habit juggling tennis balls every day, you could. So, right, I don't want to overwhelm you, so let's recap. You're coaching boys 9 to 10. You want to be the best right? You got to be the best, not only a great skills development teacher to be really effective, but you got to be the best on the pitch, because then it's easy to demonstrate. Like if you could master, right? If any, you don't have to be, even with no soccer background, if you spent a few minutes a day mastering the things that, like mastering the stuff, then you can always be a little bit ahead of them. And I guess you don't need to demonstrate it if you can communicate effectively, but mastering these things makes it easier, and easier. You got to be able to do, like, outside, outside, inside, outside, inside, just show them that. And that's what it is. So it's helpful if you master it. Same, I mean, I guess you could show your team a video, send them all the videos, say I challenge anyone on my team to learn this. That's an effortless way. You don't need to, if you don't want to learn this movement thing, but it's pretty easy. You just go first. Okay, so traditional jump rope, you start behind. With the RMT rope, for this particular move, it's helpful if you start in front, because then you want to start to do, right, underhand swing. It's a reverse jump rope pattern, the underhand swing, and then you could start to play around switching hands, right, switching hands, and then from here, then you grab onto both ends of the rope as opposed to holding it in one, right? So we go from here, and then we're gonna put both of the ropes in our hands. And then from here, you say this phrase out loud. You go, wings wide, pick a side. Wings wide, other side. Wings wide, pick a side. Wings wide, pick the other side. Right, it's over, through, over, through, over, and this is a great warm-up, right? Everyone starts bringing their ropes. You could get a spool of rope if you have a little bit of cash. You go to West Marine, find your local West Marine, or just have them. You could just ship it from your local West Marine. You could get so much of some nice rope that'll last a long time. And if you're a serious soccer coach, this investment can help your whole team be moving more efficiently, and rapidly helps improve juggling, passing, shooting, and dribbling from the rhythmic timing nature about it. So I didn't show you this one. Oh, kick trainer, I showed you. Oh, then I showed you this one too. Did I show you this one? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. From that alternating underhand sneak, I took, right, because it's a 2 pulse, it's 1, 2, 1, 2. The alternating underhand sneak, it's 2 pulses of balance on each foot. So what I did is, it's cool to transfer that to your juggling, right? So you could start to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, fuck. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So that two count juggle, and then the 2 count, right? I think that's a theme, that to take the one out of the air and rip it with the same. I just like the double hit, but I'm playing around with it. So I hope this helps. Right, to recap the Doug Nevins one, it's possession, warm up, possession. You could have 3 different types of possession. You could have 2 team possession with 2 touch, then 1 on the takeover. So when one team steals it from the other, they get an extra touch. You could have 3 team monkey in the middle style possession, And you could also have possession with gates, right? Like you put gates on the field, and players have to play through the gates to score points. And why this is effective is because when defenders try and defend the gates, your players have to recognize pressure and bring it to a gate that has no defense. So for this reason, it translates to playing effectively in addition to the other possession games, because it's going to help you shift the point of attack organically. Like you could teach great movement off the ball, possession, and still within the context of like organization and defenses, like, and every player is aligned in their head as what your strategy is, like positionally on the field, offensively and defensively. So and you don't need to be a high-level coach to understand this concept, right? So finish on goal is the first part. Is the first it's go maybe 5-10 minutes, you know, keeping it fast. Of you line your whole team up maybe 10 yards on the top of the 18, right on the top of the 18, and players take the ball. All the balls are at the top of the line with the players, and they're running at a high speed. They're trying to tuck the ball away rapidly, right? Slotsville in the inside of the right hand side netting and left side of the inside lefts, and you just have players go rapid fire. And you could have, if you have more than one goalie, you have them alternating in and out of the goal. And then it's crossing and finishing. After that, right, crossing and finishing, 4 lines total. You have the team lined up. All 4 lines are lined up, maybe even with that semicircle, right? That line that the top of the semicircle makes, right? So 2 lines on the outside, 2 lines on the inside. Both lines on the inside, they're crisscrossing their runs to finish on goal. You're alternating your crossing lines, right? All the balls are split up between them. If you don't have a backstop behind your goal, you might need to reset the balls in your lines a few times. And then from there, right, playing the big goals, I explained that before. 3 teams, that's the most important part. Split your team up into 3, because if you only have 2 teams, then there's no incentive to stay on the field and not be just as neutral bumper players on the outside, right? So that's why you got to split the team up into 3. Right, so that's the format. If you do have players with decent fundamental skill levels. Something to know about during coaching, I mean, when you're playing games, when you make substitutions, if you plan it, right, this is on effective substituting. I think this is one of the most it's like a gem of a strategy, because you utilize your team more effectively, and there's a cohesion amongst your team who understands that there are 4 positions that you're going to be subbing for every game. So it makes, for this reason, it makes your team more effective, because there's a growing sentiment, like it's good energy from your team. Because sometimes coaches will do one of multiple things. Some coaches will have players warm up, don't plan on putting them in, and won't put them in. So now these kids, they have this, they get very demotivated, right? They're unmotivated to warm up, and now like almost like their heart's out of game. They can't prepare effectively. Another thing that coaches will do for substituting is that if someone makes a mistake on the field, they're pulling them in immediately, or like even their second mistake, right? And like that's terrible, because now you have players like they're walking on eggshells, right? They're scared to make mistakes. It's like in the World Cup final, everyone was making mistakes. So if they have their mindset that they're not going to be a great player, if they make some mistakes without getting subbed out, it's like they're getting taught a bad lesson. Right? That's life. You make mistakes. Substitute. Another thing I would utilize, right? Like coaches, you have a whole. Let's say you have between 15 and 18 players who don't play during your games, you got to utilize that time, right? Because would you rather have the time spend the player, like, even if you needed that player, if you knew you were going to play a substitute ahead of the time, it's like you want your player warmed up anyway. And if there's a player who's going to get too tired out from warming up, shouldn't be like playing anyway. More in the sense that you want your subs to be almost better than your current team, because that's a crazy thought, because usually your best players would play. So your training team, the team that's not good enough to be in the starting 11 but are still developing nicely, has to be demonstrated to someone that you can utilize that whole, assuming you're playing a 90-minute game, there's training, there's a gap of time window there that coaches aren't effectively utilizing. It's precious time if you think about how many, it's just 52 weeks in a year, and you could break those each week up into like a training cycle, on what you want to optimize for. Usually it's improving all your technical skills, as well as endurance, strength, VO2 max, and heat and cold exposure that's what you're training for in a given week. So hopefully some of these ideas help. Thank you.